Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos, everybody. Welcome. Maestro? Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos, everybody. Welcome. We're glad that you're here in person. To those of you watching online, welcome to Congregation Kol Ami in West Hollywood Shabbat Service. I don't know about you, but I need Shabbat tonight. I'm Rabbi Denise Eger. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm really excited to welcome our new rabbinical student, fourth-year rabbinical student, Franklin Saltzman. And Frankie, welcome to Kol Ami. Say a word.
So
We are going to have an opportunity to collect ourselves on this Shabbat. The news of the Supreme Court's ruling overturning a 50-year ruling, 49-year ruling of Roe v. Wade, and denying access to needed health care and reproductive care for for women who are bearing children and who have a medical issue is really an affront to Judaism, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So I don't know about you, but I need to be together here with all of you. I need to sing the music of our people to help bolster my spirit and my soul, and we're going to do that. I'm going to invite you to turn to page 578. For those of you at home, you can find a Kindle version of our prayer book, Mishkan Tefillah, and download it at ccarpress.org. Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat festivals and holidays, and the pagination is exactly the same as we use here in our sanctuary. We're going to start with this musical piece setting of the Shviti prayer, Psalm 16. I chose this tonight because you all know the melody. We've sung it before, an Israeli melody, but it says, I am ever mindful of God's presence. God is at my right hand. I shall never be shaken. So my heart rejoices and my whole being exults, and my body rests secure. For you will not abandon me to Sheol or let your faithful one see the pit. You will teach me the path of life. In your presence is perfect joy. Delights are ever in your right hand. It's a prayer that we recite to help give us strength when we feel depleted, for us to know that we're not alone in the world. And so we sing Shviti, and in this version, the second word, Adonai, God's name, is translated as Havaya, which is a word of existence. It's a theological statement that God's not some being that's going to come down and zap and change the world, but God is really all of existence. And in Reformed Judaism, we know we are the ones that have to take action. So as we sing this, we'll substitute the word Havaya for Adonai. And I know you know this. And then the refrain is about Ahava, love. Shviti Havaya Lenegdi Tamid. Shviti Havaya Lenegdi Tamid. Havaya, Havaya, Havaya. Ahava, 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 Shviti, Adonai, Lenegdi Tamid, Shviti, Havaya, Lenegdi Tamid. Havaya, 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 Ahava, 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 havaya, 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 ahava, 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 ahava. Let's turn now to page 128, I believe, as we join together in Hinei Matov Umanayim, how good it is to be together. We again, from the book of Psalms, maybe you didn't know that, Psalm 133. Hinei Matov Umanayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. 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 We're so glad to invite Frank Ellison to light our Shabbat candles and to help us with Kiddush tonight. He's doing so in memory of his mother, whose yortzeit is coming up, Beatrice Ellison. Let's turn to page 120 and 121.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you who commands us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. As we celebrate Shabbat, we'll ask Frank to lift up our Kiddush cup on high. We turn to page 123. Let us hallow this day. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagofen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit כי הוא יום תחילו למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מקומים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים. לחיים, Frank. Thank you. I want to just share with you something that we wrote today and we put out in advance of, after hearing about the court decision. And I hope you understand that I think it really does represent what our congregation has been feeling. My phone hasn't stopped all day of people upset, of people who are scared, of people who are crying and mourning. Congregation Kol Ami, West Hollywood's Reformed Synagogue, is deeply disturbed and upset about today's Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. In denying women control and decision-making over their own health care and bodies, the majority of the Supreme Court justices have favored one religious viewpoint over the Jewish religious teaching that abortion is permitted, and sometimes in Jewish teaching it says it is required by Jewish law. Jewish teachings are clear. The life of the mother is favored over the life of the fetus. Today's ruling overturning Roe is, I believe, an affront to our Jewish religious teachings. It's an affront to Reform Jewish religious teachings that all people should, must, and have equal rights. And forcing women to bear children is a form of government enslavement. Decisions about accessing abortion care should be between those who are pregnant, their spouses, partners, their medical providers, and their spiritual guides. The government has no place in this decision. Today, I believe, is an unjust ruling, and it should be an urgent call to all of us, to all people, to register to vote, and to vote for those who support equality and liberty. In our sacred community here at Kol Ami, I know we will continue to work together and work on our commitment for safe and legal abortion, to access for safe and legal abortion, to support those who choose and or need to receive abortion care, and to work to restore access for legal abortion for those who are living in areas where restrictions will be in place or have already gone into place just today. I want to say to all of us, there may be a time, as we did many, many years ago, 50 years ago, where we might have to receive people in our homes who have to travel to California, which has already declared itself a safe haven. And I want this commitment that we together make, and those of you that are watching at home, if you have a spare bedroom, if you're willing to help house somebody who needs to come to California to receive the medical care that they need in terms of their own reproductive health, that we as a community will remain committed to that. This is something we can do, that we can be proactive and we can help. So I commend all of you, and I commend our congregation because I know this is an important issue to all of us. We know what happened in 2008. We know what it felt like to have our civil rights taken away when California voted in Proposition 8. After we had gained the civil right to marry, the voters overturned that here. We know what it feels like. Now the rest of our country is learning what it feels like to have their civil rights and their liberty taken away. So we have much to teach. Our community here has much to teach about how to continue to work for the day when we will once again have the freedom of choice and the freedom of liberty to decide our religious and spiritual and moral values and how they play out each and every day in our lives. And I know I can count on each of you to help in that cause. Let us continue Now, to please let us welcome the angels of peace. Let us greet them with a shalom aleichem, and let us invite them to bless us. Barchuni l'shalom. Bless us with peace, because we surely need it tonight. Turning to page 142, we sing Debbie Friedman's version, one of the last songs that she wrote in her lifetime, one of the last melodies that she wrote. Shalom aleichem. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, malachei hasharet, malachei elyon, mi melech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Bochem l'shalom, malchei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi hamelech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, malachei hasharet, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Barchuni l'shalom, malchei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi hamelech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, malachei hasharet, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch. Now say shuvchem l'shalom, shuvchem l'shalom, malchei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi hamelech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, malachei hasharet, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Let's greet one another. Good Shabbos. Introduce yourself if you don't know who's behind that mask. And Shabbat Shalom at home. I'm so glad that you're here tonight. I can see some of you on Facebook now, and I wish you all a good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom, Frankie.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome.
Shabbat Shalom.
Page 146, we remain standing for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. La la la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevo
We continue on page 151 at the top of the page with a reading that encourages us to struggle with God, even as we know of God's love. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Please rise and turn to page 154 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Let's be seated together as we chant on 154, the V'ahavta prayer. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot ayadecha v'ayu letotafot beineinecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru vasitem ekol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem leelohim ani Adonai Elohechem emet. I don't know, I don't feel much like rejoicing tonight. But there's wisdom in our tradition because it forces us to take a posture of rejoicing, even when we don't actually feel like it. You know that phrase, fake it till you make it? Sometimes that actually works. Sometimes that actually works. But the Mi Chamocha prayer is a song of rejoicing. But friends, make no mistake, it is a rejoicing poem of victory, of triumph over the evil of Pharaoh into the promise of freedom. And so we might not feel like rejoicing tonight, but we have to have faith as the Israelites did, that we too will sing a victory song. It might take years, to be honest. It took them 50 years to reverse row. Tonight, we feel our feelings. We don't feel like rejoicing, but we're going to sing this Mi Chamocha rejoicing song anyways, because in the back of our own souls, we're going to remember what rejoicing feels like, even if we're not there yet, even if we know the road is long, even if we don't see where the waters are going to part. But guess what? The Israelites didn't think the water was going to part either until Nachshon jumped in. So feel our feelings tonight of anger and sadness and numbness and hopelessness and confusion and the sense of betrayal that we might all feel. But then we're going to be like Nachshon and jump into the waters of organizing and of voter registration and of walking and canvassing and making sure that those waters are going to part. and that we too will then someday sing an authentic victory song, a song of freedom, a song of liberty for all people. Page 158, Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Nedar B'Kodesh, Nohora Tehilot, Osef Eleh, Nohora Tehilot, Osef Eleh, Yailai, 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 Yailai,
We turn to page 161 for a reading that we'll do together that speaks a little bit about that victory, of what it looks like for us to move forward and how we need to do so together. Please read with me on the top of 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporesh sukkot shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. Page 162. The promise of Shabbat is our eternal promise, a promise to have this moment in time that is a place of peace. So we sing together, page 162, Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתולה, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתולה. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל שבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We now come to the part in our service known as the Amidah, the standing prayer. And one of my favorite teachings is that on Shabbat, we are given a second soul. And I like to imagine, as I'm praying during a Shabbat evening service, that up until this point, I've been preparing myself to receive that second soul. And that the Amidah, when we stand, when we rise to offer our prayers to God, we are opening ourselves up to receive that second soul. And This Shabbat, as we think about all of our emotions and all that's going on in our world, how much more so could we use the help of a second soul? And so I invite you to turn to page 164 and rise with us as we say the Amidah and welcome in our souls.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Take some time for silent prayer or the prayers of your own heart. (178) Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata Shalom. When we make the Mishaberach for healing, we usually think about physical healing. But each week when we pray, we say Rufuat Nefesh, Rufuat Guf, a healing of spirit and a healing of body, because it's not just for physical healing, but many of us that are despondent and depressed, and we live with clinical depression every day. We live with mental illnesses. We live with broken spirits and broken hearts. So this too is a time for tikkun, a time for repair, a time for healing. So tonight, as we sing our Mishaberach prayer, which will be on page 371 in your prayer books, not only will we call aloud the names of those who have requested that we send up our healing prayers on their behalf, but be sure to include the names of the loved ones that you want, and maybe tonight, maybe it's your own name. Maybe you're feeling out of sorts, confused, hurt. Those of you on our YouTube channel, and those watching on our website or Facebook, say the names aloud of those you care about as well, or write them in the chat on YouTube or Facebook. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, God and God of our ancestors, please heal us. Heal us now. Grant Rufuat Nefesh or Rufuat Aguf, a healing of spirit, our souls, and our bodies. Tonight in our congregation, we're especially calling to mind John Altschul and Gary Ashland, Vicki Beard and Stuart Berkeley, Richard Bernard, Lisa Bird, Dabby Blatt, Elaine Blatt, Louise and Wayne Cantrell, Gail Ehrlich, Tino Felipe, Zeus Goldberg, Reba Goldman, Brad Greenberg, Don Hollis, Steve Hochstein, Tim Jordan, Heidi Kebus, Vanessa Knight, Peter Mackler, Tammy Rabowski, Ben Reback, Ivan Rosenberg, Lowell Selvin, Judy Cyril, Michael Simmental, Henry Sommerfeld, Barbara Thompson, David Suriel, Kathy Weiss, David Ben Herschel Bavasha, Mark Perchin, Steve Escobar, Neil Romanoff, and Robert Torres. Others that you would like to include in this healing prayer, now please say their name. Shema Kolenu, hear our prayer. And teach us, O God, to be your messengers of love and kindness and healing and gentleness and blessing. Baruch atah rofeh hacholim. Praised are you, God, who heals the sick. And let us together say, Amen. And let us sing together this blessing, 371. Mi sheberach avotenu Makor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Sheberach imotenu makor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We now turn to page 519 for a special blessing this Shabbat. We will be saying the blessing for the new month, for Rosh Chodesh, for Tammuz, which is going to be coming this coming Thursday. And it's the tradition that when you have Shabbat, you say, if during the next week there will be a new month, you say the blessing during Shabbat as well. On page 519. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei amotenu v'imotenu shetchadesh aleinu et hachodesh haba l'tova v'livracha v'titen lanu hayim arukim hayim shel shalom hayim shel parnasa hayim shetehevanu ahavat Torah v'yirat shamayim hayim sheyim al-u mish alot libano l'tova. Amen.
Amen.
our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life, peace, and prosperity, a life exalted by love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our hearts are fulfilled for good. Rosh Chodesh Tammuz Yihyeh B'Yom Hamishi. The new month of Tammuz will begin on Thursday.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And once again, Frankie, welcome to Kol Ami. We're so excited to learn from you in the coming year. This is a soft opening for Frankie. I convinced Frankie to come for a couple times during the summer to kind of get to know us a little bit, and they will be starting in August, towards the end of August when school starts back. But just a plug, if you want to come to the Skirball Museum with us on July 10th, we're going to see the deli exhibit. I'll have what she's having, and Frankie's going to be there with us
I
too.
will be
so
there.
you'll have a chance to really schmooze and get to know them. So please, welcome. We're
Thank
glad
you
you're
so much. I'm really excited to be here. Lovely.
And I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna give you the sermon that I wrote for this week, but not about Roe v. Wade, because I've spoken about it 3 times in the last 6 months. But I am gonna invite you to come on Sunday at 5:30 to Leo Beck Temple. Rabbis have kind of been talking all day because it's Shabbat, and I know some people were at many of the rallies, Day of Decision rallies. There's one going on in West Hollywood just down the street that's just started. We were invited. I want you to know we were called and invited and kind to speak, but I said I needed to be in our Shabbat services with all of you tonight. And so there is a Jewish community vigil to protest the decision and to offer comfort and to do a little bit of organizing together at 5:30 on Sunday, this coming Sunday at Leo Beck Temple, which is at 1300 on Sepulveda Boulevard, which is right across from the entrance to the Getty, where you'd have to go under the 405 for the Getty. So I hope some of you will come and join me and be there and have us have our hearts filled up with one another and show our sense of community and support for one another and support for those who need fair and free access to reproductive care. There's nothing worse than a family feud, unless you're on a game show. However, when 2 or more members of one family fight, it affects everyone in the extended family. My own father and his brother, may they both rest in peace, alav shalom, aleha shalom, did not speak to one another for many years. They fought over the family business. I remember as a little girl visiting my grandmother's one Sunday morning, and my uncle was coming down the stairs as my father and I were going up the stairs to visit their mother, my grandmother, in her second-floor apartment. My father and my uncle refused to even acknowledge one another on that tiny little staircase. I know it pained my grandmother greatly. It confused me as a little girl. It affected their wives, my mother and my aunt, who were good friends and continued to play bridge and mahjong with each other each week in the same group. At one time, the 2 couples, the brothers and their wives, were inseparable. They went on vacation together. They did everything together. And my cousin and my sister, or my older sister, were really like brother and sister. They were so close. This was my family feud. Thankfully, as the brothers aged, they reconciled. But I think about all those lost years of our family, especially when my grandmother was alive. I know what pain it was for her. And I think about how the silence and the anger and the hurt between the brothers affected all of us. My family's not alone in that kind of filial fight. Many families experience the pain of a quarrel between family members, sometimes going on for years and decades. Perceived snubs, rejections, sometimes outright manipulations are just a few of the reasons that family members argue. Sometimes it plays itself out at the family gatherings, at weddings or funerals, Passover seders, even Thanksgiving. Who can forget that scene in the movie Avalon at Thanksgiving as actor Lou Jacoby's Thanksgiving Day temper tantrum Late again for dinner, Jacoby's Uncle Gabe was stunned to discover that his family this time didn't wait for him. Critic Roger Ebert called it, "You cut the turkey without me," the greatest line of dialogue in a Thanksgiving movie ever. Of course, filmmaker Barry Levinson won Best Screenplay Award from the Writers Guild for Avalon. But in this movie scene, fueled a family feud as the most American moment. Disrespected, not included, slighted, that's Uncle Gabe's feeling of hurt. And the family, the larger family, felt disrespected. He didn't have the courtesy to show up on time so that the food might be warm. Neither are wrong, but the rift is real. Most often, in my experience as a rabbi, I see this play out time and again. Hurt feelings that play out over family finances or family positions in power push painful family dynamics. This week's Torah portion is no different. Korach, first cousin of Moses, stages a challenge to Moses' leadership and Aaron's. Korach feels snubbed. He seeks positions of power and wealth. And he plans a full rebellion against Moses and Aaron, gathering others to his cause. This, of course, is just after the children of Israel had led an insurrection headed up by the 10 scouts. And Miriam, 2 weeks before, also challenged her brother's judgment and leadership. The rabbis write in Midrash Rabbah this: Korach, son of Yizchar, son of Kahat, son of Levi, what moved him to start such a quarrel? He was moved to it by the fact that Elzaphan, the son of his father's brother, was appointed prince over the family, as it says in the book of Numbers, and the prince of the father's house of the families of the Kohathites was Elzaphan, son of Uzziel. Korach argued, my father was one of the 4 original brothers as it taught in Exodus. It's Amram, Yizhar, and Hebron, and Uzziel. As Amram was the firstborn, his son Aaron attained to the greatness, to the priesthood, and Moses to the royalty. Who then should rightly take the 3rd office, the next office? Is it not the next in line? Now I, being the son of Yizhar, should be the right leader of the Kohathites. And yet Moses appointed the son of Uzziel. Shall the son of the youngest of my father's brothers be superior to me? Behold, I'll dispute his decision, the rabbis put these words in Korach's mouth, and foil all that has been arranged by him. You see, Moses appointed his younger first cousin, Elzaphan, as a chief prince of the tribe rather than Korach, who was an older first cousin. This enraged Korach, since he was the eldest of the second son of Kohat. He felt his position had been usurped by Moses. He was insulted and he felt displaced. He felt entitled to a position of power and authority based on his lineage. And Korach felt he had a claim to it because he was the eldest of the second son. Position and power are a large part of this quarrel. But you see, Korach miscalculates greatly because even though he might think he has a claim, it is not a valid claim in our tradition. Why? Because in our Torah portion, God has chosen the leadership. Moses is just the mouthpiece. And God upsets the order of things, if you will, the so-called birth order to which Korach refers. Look at the order just in Moses' own family. Moses was the youngest, and yet Moses is the leader. Aaron was the high priest and the second child, the middle child. And Miriam, the prophetess, well, she was the eldest child. And we see a larger pattern play out in our people's story. Isaac, the younger child, not Ishmael, the older, from whom we trace our ancestry. It is Jacob, not Esau, who gets the birthright. It is Joseph, not the 10 older brothers, who is chosen by God. In another midrash of our sages, they have a different understanding of this family feud. Korach tries to impugn the character of Moses and Aaron, saying, they lord it over everyone. Is not everyone among the people holy? Rabbi Jonathan Sachs wrote of Korach, the idea of leadership hierarchy in a kingdom of priests and a holy nation is a contradiction in terms. Korach tries to say everyone is like a priest. Everyone is holy. Everyone is equal in dignity before God. Hierarchy has no place in such a nation. That may be true. We all are a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, as it says in the book of Exodus. But you see, he didn't just challenge Moses and Aaron. Korach led an insurrection. 250 elders of renown challenged the entire system of priesthood and the distribution of power. Korach saw leadership as power over, dominance over the people. That is what they sought to have and to enrich themselves. And so his challenge isn't just to Moses and Aaron. Korach's insurrection is a challenge to the whole constitution of the Jewish people, the covenant that was made with all of us at Sinai. Korach's challenge is actually to God. But Moses is hardly someone who is a power monger. He's always been a reluctant one in our tradition. He's known as Eved Adonai, the servant of God, who time and again has tried to get out of the job of being the leader. Remember at the burning bush when God calls out from that bush to tell him, you're going to lead the children of Israel? Moses tries to avoid becoming the leader. The sages said the same. The Talmud teaches us that when a leader lords it over a community, the Holy One weeps every day because of him or her. That is why we know Moses is considered the humblest of servants. The closeness of Moses and God and the fact that God revealed God's face to Moses tells you of the esteem, the love, the care, and respect that God had for God's servants, God's humble servant. There's a fascinating passage in our Talmud in which Rabban Gamliel, the chief rabbi of the Sanhedrin, wanted to appoint two rabbis, Elazar Chizma and Yochanan ben Gudgada, to leadership positions. They were both reluctant to accept them. And Rabbi Gamliel said, do you suppose I'm conferring rulership on you? No, I'm conferring service on you, avdut. A true leader is the servant of those she leads. That is what Moses understood, and what Korach and his fellow rebels did not. The great Orthodox philosopher Yeshayahu Leibowitz said that the Torah's position is that all the community is actually challenged to be holy. It's not a pre-existing condition. It's what we aspire to in the choices that we make and by the lives that we lead. Clearly, Korach did not possess a sense of kedusha, a sense of holiness in his challenge. But he was angry, petty, and filled with jealousy. And as such, their rebellion failed because in the end, God chose leaders and entrusted leaders who served with piety, dignity, and humility. A lesson for us all. The family fight between Korach and Moses is violent and disruptive, not just to these two, but their families, the Levites, and the entire people of Israel. In the end, Korach cannot challenge the choice of God, and Korach's stubbornness and intransigence causes the death of him and many, many, many others. He refuses to make peace with God. One of our most profound lessons comes from the Ten Commandments. It promises us nothing about inheritance based on birth order, but it does remind us not to covet anything that is our neighbor's. This is true about our family members as well. No one is entitled simply because of birth order. Instead, we're taught in Jewish tradition, work hard, honor God, and live a life filled with honor of family rather than being jealous of what your sister has. Ultimately, this Torah portion teaches us that God was right in picking who to lead, in picking Moses and Aaron and Miriam and Joshua and Caleb and Eleazar and Itamar, because Korach's anger and ability to whip others into a frenzy only leads to their harm and to their deaths. Imagine for a moment if Korach had used his talents in a positive way. had challenged in a conversation, had tried to negotiate. You see, I think that remains our challenge, to use our talents in a positive way for our people, our families, and our communities, to think about how our actions and our inactions have impact. And maybe, just maybe, since we know Uncle Gabe will be late again next year, maybe we go out of our way to do everything in our power to avoid a situation that will blow up into those family feuds that are filled with intransigence and stubbornness. May our words and actions be filled with chesed, loving kindness, and ultimately with tikva, with hope. Ken Yirtzi Ratzon, so may it be God's will. It's always a pleasure to invite a board member to bring greetings to our congregation and to share some important reminders. And Janine Schneider, we're glad to welcome you as our board host tonight. If you'll come over to this podium so the folks at home can also see you. Frankie will help you with the microphone.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. It's my honor as a board member to let all of you know in our sacred community how important it is at this time to participate, and Shabbat Shalom to all of you. We want to welcome the new rabbinic intern, Frankie Salzman, and we look forward to a great year ahead with you. And thank you to David Kaminsky, our past president, for his gorgeous piano playing. Yay! Tomorrow at 4 p.m., Kol Ami will host a best-selling author, Maggie Anton, at our monthly book circle. That's going to be online only, and we're reading her newest novel, The Choice, a story of love, faith, and Talmud. But even if you haven't read the book, please feel free to join Maggie as she talks about the book. It's the end of our physical year. Our wonderful sacred community is about to start our 30th year of Kol Ami. And if you haven't renewed your membership, all of you members, please do so this week. It is the time that we need individually and collectively to take a stand in our world for sacred communities like ours. And if you've been considering joining our amazing congregation, now is the time to do so. You can do so by either calling the office or going to the website and filling out a membership form. And if you're still considering it, please don't hesitate to call one of us on the board to talk about our community. We would welcome your call. Sunday, July 10th at 11 a.m., Kol Ami and our Open Yad Project are planning a field trip. It's a field trip to the Skirball Museum. You can join Rabbi Ager and our student rabbi, Frankie Salzman, and it's about Jewish delicatessens. I'll be having whatever she's having. Thank you very much. Come and learn a lot about the Jewish relationship with food. As always, we're hoping you'll keep up to date on all that is happening in our sacred community by visiting our website, kol-ami.org. That's kol-ami.org. If you don't do it right, you'll end up someplace else. You can register for all of our online and in-person programs there. And while you're visiting the website, we do encourage you to donate at this time to our sacred community as we start our 30th year. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom, and happy Pride Month to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Janine. Shabbat Shalom. Again, 5:30 this coming Sunday at Leo Beck Temple, 1300 North Sepulveda Boulevard. Friends, we're at 586 in your prayer book as we rise together for the Aleinu L'Shabeach as the ark is opened. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol L'Tekadula Leotzer Breshit Shelo Asanu Ki Goyei Aratzot Velo Samanu Ki Mishpechat Adama Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem V'gor Aleinu Kecho Amonam V'anachnu Korim U'mishchachavim U'modim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'ne'emar V'haya Adonai L'melech HaKol Haaretz V'yom hahu V'yom hahu Yeh Adonai echad U'shemo 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 echad. This week to come, we're observing the yortzites of Rosalie Abrams Berger, mother of Sharon Siegel, Tilly Wernick-Sitram, aunt of Neil Zaslofsky, Muriel Sonoff, grandmother of Cheryl Gold, Stanley Weiss, uncle of Stephen Weiss, Abraham Clark, great-grandfather of Richard Wertman, Jack Pollier, friend of Congregation Kol Ami, Janet Walbot Siegel, cousin of John Altschul, Lillian Altman, aunt of Martin Frank, whose yortzite plaques are lit in loving remembrance here. We're also recalling the yortzites of Louis Janowski, friend of Glenn Rosenblum, Alan Eckoby, friend of Esther Keller-Baum, Ida Miller, grandmother of Deborah Miller, and Rose Feldman, grandmother of Deborah Miller, Judy Feinberg, aunt of Peter Mackler, Bernie Backrack, father of Beth Backrack, Beatrice Ellison, mother of Frank Ellison, Rosalie Rosenfeld, aunt of Marilyn Ader, Arthur Stein, uncle of Andrew Stein, Billy Lobo, friend of Michael Becker, Joseph Davidson, grandfather of Carrie Davidson, Ruth Davidson, mother of Lori Davidson, Norman Bronson, friend of Alvin Gross, and Hyman Kaplan, grandfather of Connie Kaplan. And we are reciting Kaddish this year for Hanum Bashi, Michael Epstein, Marvin Keller, Mark Levin, Rick Gold, Erwin Citron, Marvin Edelman, Paul Morgan Fredericks, Paul Tabor, Ann Pendo, Linda Baclan, Muriel Stein, Ruben Ibarra, Marianne Waxner, Claudia Morton, Ron Stoner, Alyssa Bentley, Sandy Saltzman, Jay Solrush, Shirley Rosenberg, Brandon Lux, Nadine Holt, Christopher Hughes, Yusuf Lukito, Evelyn Ruth Rich, Keith Cantrell, Rob Schlesinger, Leona Bander, Marlene Bram, Herb Jacobson, Richard Frank, Lou Vincenelli, Dave Hall, Howard Romanoff, and Greg Sorkin. There are others that you would like to recall in remembrance tonight if you would say their name aloud or write them on the chat at home.
Adam Kaminsky, Rochelle Kaminsky, Josh Marcus, Ralph and Regina Hubbard.
As we hear their names, we take them into our hearts as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. I invite you to stand in their honor and in their memory as we read together and pray. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, b'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchotei, b'chayachon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kari v'yamru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam omei omaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudashah, b'richu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'kol yeshvei tevel, v'yimru amen. May the source of peace and comfort to all who mourn and all who are bereaved among us. Together we say amen. You may be seated, and our closing song is Oseh Shalom. Maestro? עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל יושבי תבל. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו על כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו על כל יושבי תבל.
As I grappled this morning with the news of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, my thoughts turned to June 30th, 2014. That day, I was sitting in the audience of the Supreme Court when the decision in Burrell versus Hobby Lobby was read. A landmark decision which ruled that Hobby Lobby could claim a religious exemption in order to not have to comply with the contraception mandate. As I heard that ruling, as I was sitting there, I remember being just overwhelmed with emotion and thoughts like this morning. I was scared of what this ruling would mean for all those who 8 years ago were living in states where their access to abortion was being restricted, and now their employers could deny them access to contraception as well. And I was angry that this was being done in the name of religion. And yet my religion says that access to life-saving procedures is important and even necessary. After taking time to process, I realized then that being in the courtroom that day was a call to action, to make known that I believe in a God who cherishes our lives and wants us to have access to reproductive care. Today, we need that call doubly so. And this Shabbat, I pray, God, bless us that we take this time to refocus, to rejuvenate and recharge, so that we go forward into the week ahead, renewed and ready to act, to answer the call. Ken Yehiyeh Ratzon. May it be God's will.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Good Shabbos, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you online for being here with us. Shabbat shalom. See you on Sunday at Leo Beck Temple at 5:30.